All right. Hey guys, today we're gonna take a dive into UiPath and we're gonna be looking at how to use UiPath Invoke VBA to freeze and format headers and get an output value from UiPath by passing it out of Excel's VBA into UiPath. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at how we're gonna do this. So here's an agenda of what we're planning on doing. And let's take a look at what we need to do first. So first things first, as you can see, I have some code here that's already pre-populated. Okay, so now that we have that, let's go ahead and get it set up to run it in VBA for Excel. So right off the bat, what I'm gonna do right now is I'm gonna set up a sub called caller. And this sub called caller, all it's doing is it's gonna call the function that I want to invoke here in VBA to interact with Excel. So here we go. This one is going to be called my function name right here. So you have a function called, I'm not done, a function called var giver. So we want to take that var giver, I'm going to call it, and then we're going to pass it the first argument, which is one of the sheet names called sheet namer, and I'm going to use data because I know that's one of them. Let's go ahead and take a look. We can take a look real quick. Here it is. Yes, data is one of the sheets, and we have one called cover. We can just do data for now. So let's go back to VBA. Okay, so we have that sub set up. And now that we have this sub set up, kind of letting you know what it's for. This sub is so that we can just like let's think about the sub as UiPath. UiPath will essentially be the sub. That invoke activity is this sub technically, and it calls this. It's gonna be calling this function var giver and passing in that variable data or that argument data, right? So that's what UiPath will be doing. So we need that same kind of function here in VBA. Okay, so after that's done, then it goes into the public function called var giver with the sheet name. And then this function, right off the bat, we have error handling. So this error handling is so that if anything happens once this is called, we don't just get the generic UiPath error. We actually get error from VBA. From the code that we're running. You need to do this so that you can understand what's going on within the code. That's the first thing that's really important here. Okay, so that's the first structural importance, error handling. Right here we have one called killer, and then here's killer down here. That's our catch called killer. And in that catch, I say var giver, which is a function name, equals the combination error. Combination error, com error is declared here. This is very important. You need to declare it in here because we don't have it declared in the name for the function. So you got to declare it in the function, and you need to give it that name right here because I'm calling a function that has so many variables down here. Here's my function, my subroutine right here, and this subroutine has optional functions. So I need to call the one of the optional one that I want to use. I'm calling it in a function that's calling the main sub. This is a sub that's the main heart of this code. So that's what's happening right here. So I called it by name. You know, I use com error as a name. I'm using this colon here to use that name, and then once I call that name, I'm using the variable that's within the function right here to populate that function call or that variable call. Okay, so that's once we get past this, we're getting into our main function. Now we're in our main function. Here's all of the named arguments we can use, optional ones. This is the only one that's required is a sheet namer which is the name of the sheet. What I have going on here is I'm using some of VBA's internal methods and functions to automatically name the sheet automatically name the workbook and activate it once I get in, and you'll see that once I get down there. So right off the bat, we have a name sheet, and we also are passing the com error function argument. We're passing it back if there's any value. This is important to get the information back to UiPath. This by ref tag right here is the most important thing in order to get that reference to if it's not enabled, by default in your VBA config, you want to have this by ref tag so that information can go back to the function and hence back to UiPath as an argument. Very important. All right. So in the heart of the subroutine, we have on error, go to stop. Right off the bat again, I'm using error handling to encompass everything so that we can handle any errors that occur, so we can get the error information. And we're going to go down to the bottom and I'll show you what that is. So let's just get to this really fast. So we're saying if the length of the workbook name, that one's going to be nothing. If it's 0, then we're going to give it the active workbook's name. Okay, that's done. So now if the length of com error equals 0, we're going to give it default name of an empty string. We don't need this technically because this was for some bugs that I was chasing and I got this solved, but I'll leave it there for now. And then we move on and we set the workbook. Some error, this is error 0, go to 0, this is 0 or error 0. If that one's called, that's where it goes. Okay, continue on, let's pass this. It's very self-explanatory code. All right, we can pass this. All right, the next important thing here in VB code is I'm setting the range, the header range. I'm setting it here, and I'm using some VBA functions to set it. As you can see, I'm using cells going to the end, to the right, and I'm giving it the address for the last value so that I can define it, that range that I want to set for the header. So I'm setting from A1 to the last column that has a value pretty much. That's what's happening right here. Okay, right here I'm going to go ahead and we're going to give it the border color. It's going to be black. We're going to give it some bold. We're going to give it bold font. Set that to true. Border weight is going to be medium. That's what this code right here is for. Interior color is going to be, I think I have it set to 15, which is gray. Yeah, we have it set to 15 right here, which is gray. Okay, so that's done. We've finished this. We get to the end, and then right here we're going to go ahead and we're going to freeze the row. So this is a code to do that. So right off the bat, some more error handling. If this freeze row have any errors, then go straight to stopped. If active window freeze pan is false, then we're going to go ahead and make it true, which is what's going to freeze everything row 1. We're pretty much saying freeze row 1. That's why we're going down to number 2. That's what's happening here. So we're going to be activating number 2 so we can freeze 1. So if you wanted to freeze row 1 and row 2, then you go to say 3. That's how that works right there. I hope that makes sense. Okay, so the next thing that we need to do is we just need to clear a selection and make it set it back to essentially cell A1. That's what's happening here. And once we do that, we're going to say com error is process ran successfully. That's done. Okay, here we are down on the bottom here. This is my catch for called stopped, right? You saw it at the very beginning. Here's stopped right there, and then here it is down here. That's where everything jumps to. So what this does is anytime there's an error, we're going to say give me the error description and concatenate it with the error number, and then populate the variable com error, and it's going to go ahead and jump back out to the function here, the function call, and then that function call is going to automatically either populate the COM error and end, or it's going to go to killer right here. More than likely it's going to go to killer because it's an error, right? This error is going to go up here, and there's an error there, and it's going to go straight to killer. So once that's done, then we'll get that information back out in UiPath. That's the key here. I'm trying to get my error information, or I'm trying to get a success message, and that's how I'm doing it here in this function. So let's run this. Let's go ahead and run this through in step by step. I got to click here, and let's just run through and see how it works. So calling it. Okay, we're calling the sub, and then we're going down, we're running everything here, and we're checking each error, and we're checking for errors as we go, setting our borders. I'm just going to show you guys this while we're doing it. You can see here's a black outline already, partially set. Okay. Okay, so let me see if I can get my I want to get my see if I can get my debugger panel now. I want to get my debugger panel off. Let me get my debug panel. I want to move it. Come on. I'm just trying to move my debugger panel out of there. There we go. So now that I have my debugger panel, let's continue this process. So let's go ahead and continue. You can see we got it bolded, and then now we're going to set the next code is going to set it. If it's already set to true, if it's not false, it's going to just go ahead and pass it. So we already have it set. So you see that passes it over, and then we're just going to go ahead and set process ran successfully, and then we're going to go ahead and take a look at that. That's very important. I want to make sure right here, once I get that message process ran successfully, when I get out of this sub, I want to make sure that that function is populated. So let's go ahead and continue exit sub. Right here down below, process ran successfully. This is important. This is what you want. So now that we have that information now being sent back to the public function, that will also it will be sent back to UiPath. So we're going to hit var giver. It end up having an error, so that error is going to continue. And then now it's going to end the function. And as that function ends, that information is sent back to UiPath. You see, essentially UiPath would be subcaller right here. And now subcaller is ready to end. And subcaller now has that information, which is what UiPath would be. UiPath is subcaller. So now that we kind of went through that process, I hope that clicks. You can go back through and watch what I just did there and how I explained it. But once that's done, now we want to grab this code and we want to populate it